We got to spend the last 2 weeks in Australia, and one of the first things that we noticed when we got to Australia was that it is hot. We talked to the locals and we said, hey, what do you guys like to do for fun? And literally everyone said, you need to go to the beach.
So we started off our Australian adventure in the Sunshine Coast, and because the locals said to go to the beach, we just hit a new beach every day. And some of our favorites were Point Arkwright and the Noosa Heads main beach. We liked Point Arkwright because it had these pools when it was in low tide. The kids loved to just play in the water when there weren't any waves to pull them back into the ocean, and it was a nice and relaxing way to play at the beach.
One thing you have to be careful of though, while especially at Arkwright, is when the water gets a little bit warmer, like this time of the year, it pulls jellyfish out to the beach. Especially these little blue bottle jellyfish is what they're called. They're really small, but they have like tentacles that are blue, like 3 inches long. And if you get one of those like on your fingers or your toes, you step on one on the beach, it's really painful. So we talked to Theo, we said, be careful, watch where you step because these things can hurt you.
So of course he steps on the jellyfish, gets wrapped around his little toe, and he only cried for a minute, so I'm pretty proud of him.
Champ.
I got ish to do, flying through the sky in my parachute, dancing on the couch like I'm Tommy Cruise, on a one-man mission trying to see it through, yeah. I got the password, yeah, I finally got the password. Added up the numbers, now the math works. I got the way to make the path work. All these lights turning from red to green, timing is everything. And it feels so good to shine, gon' get a light. I'm living my best life, living my best life.
Noosa Heads is also incredibly gorgeous. And there's this fun little walk that goes up into the national park, and it's just got these rocky cliffs, and it was just very pretty. So one of the most iconic things about Australia is seeing the kangaroo. So of course we had to go see the kangaroo. And we found out that they are kind of like deer for us back home. They just kind of roam around all over, but the best place to find them is at a golf course. And so we were actually like a block away from a golf course. So we went in and talked to them, and they told us when the good time to come was, and magical.
One thing that we did to kind of immerse ourselves into the Australian culture is visit one of the local markets. It's actually one of the biggest markets in Australia, the Eomundi Farmers Market. And it was a great place to see the authentic Australian food, the pies, the wild didgeridoos in their native habitat. Really, there was actually a guy there that was playing like 10 instruments at once. And
five of them were didgeridoos.
Yeah, 5 of them were didgeridoos. There were were some things there that weren't actually even Australian. For lunch, we had something that was like Slovenian or something, and you can't go wrong with the food there. Everything was awesome.
But it was an actual farmer's market where everything there was homemade. They actually made the crafts, and it wasn't businessy at all, which I appreciated. Theo has really missed being around friends. I think every day he has been like, can we go back to school? So that's been hard. But our Airbnb host actually had a, what was he, two?
One
three?
year old son. Oh, 2 years. Yeah, he's
Two.
Yeah.
And Theo and him played every single day, and it was so fun that he could play with this little boy, and they became really good friends.
Yeah, we actually became such good friends with the Airbnb host there that we were literally sad to leave, and that's rare for an Airbnb from our experience.
Yeah. So from there we flew to
Proserpine. On our way to Airlie Beach. And this was actually another place that we got to see kangaroos out in the wild when we realized that they were kind of like our deer that we have at home. We took a bus ride, a shuttle from the airport in Proserpine to Airlie Beach and like near the Whitsundays, and we saw kangaroos everywhere in just random farmland and flats along the way, and it was really cool.
Okay, 2 disclosures. One, when we were talking about going to Australia, it was mostly so that I can go scuba to the Great Barrier Reef. That was always like a dream of mine, and we were talking to a local Australian who moved into his parents' old house, and she said not to go to Cairns because that's very touristy, but to go to Airlie Beach. So that's why we chose Airlie Beach. And 2, what was my second disclosure? Oh,
Just kidding.
disclosure number 2, the transportation there is awesome, and renting a car is not necessary.
Nope.
So we didn't. And they've got a really good bus system into town, bus system around town. They've only got one route up and down, so it was actually really nice. There's no Uber, but we didn't miss it. It was fine.
Okay, so where we stayed, we tend to like to go kind of outside of the main city hub where all the hustle and bustle is, but still close enough to visit quickly. And where we went this time was called the Jubilee Pocket. And right next to Jubilee Pocket, there was a place for camper vans to park and hook in. But what's cool about this camper van site is every day at around 4 p.m., this guy that looks like Steve Irwin comes out with 2 bags full of like this mush, gruel stuff.
It looks like watered bread.
But the birds go crazy over this. I think we had every bird around the Whitsundays in the trees next to us and flying around us when this guy shows up, because just grabbing a handful of this gruel in our hands, we were covered in birds. There were times where we had them on our heads, on our shoulders, hands, arms.
And you'd
everything.
think it would be like this peaceful, like, oh, I've got all these lovely birds on me, but no, they daggered into you, and it was quite painful. Theo didn't enjoy the bird feeding part.
Not at all, but we were loving it.
Yeah, it was pretty fun for us.
One of the fun parts about being here in Australia is we just happen to be here for Australia Day. And it's kind of like the 4th of July in the United States, where everyone just gets super drunk and parties all the time. In this case, that's what happens. The Australians go out, get totally wasted, and celebrate being Australian. What we did is we went and we actually looked up the city council and saw if there were any events going down that would be good for families with kids and stuff like that. And of course, it was still a bar because in Australia, bars allow kids, and sometimes they have play places and stuff like that, which is kind of unreal, different from at home for us. But we went to the Northerlies, and at the Northerlies, they had a bunch of cool things like animals and lizards and snakes that you can play with.
Theo was so brave. He had like this giant snake draped across his shoulders, and he was just like, can I keep this?
Yeah, can I keep it? Yeah, and he was walking up to big old lizards and stuff and petting them, just no fear. We loved it. My favorite, I think the highlight of our time at the Northerlies though, was they had a lamington eating contest. So this guy comes out and he announces, "All right, Lamington contest, everyone 10 and under, come join in." And so of course we grab Theo and we throw him into the pile, and we're like, "What is he eating?" We're actually, so it turns out a Lamington is actually this little cake. It's like a sponge cake with chocolate and coconut with like a thin layer of jam in the middle. So
Not a lamb.
not lamb. But Theo demolished his cake. He won the contest. And I know. And not only that, he paid for lunch and dinner for the rest of the day. They gave him this $50 certificate for just chowing down on this Lamington. So
we ate like kings for lunch.
exactly.
Great.
Thank you, Theo.
But they also had like face painting and balloon making and all sorts of stuff. It was really, really fun. So one of my top bucket list items since I was really little was to go to the Great Barrier Reef because it is a natural wonder of the world. And I finally got to do that, and I thought it was a great way to finish off our time in Australia. We went with Illusions to tour, and we got to scuba dive once and we got to snorkel once. And it was just really, really fun. And we got to see so many fish and turtles and coral, and I was just in heaven, just down there with my little fishy friends.
Yeah, there are a lot of rumors about how dead the coral is getting because of global warming and pollution and the human footprint on the globe and stuff, which is true to an extent. I mean, there's a lot of places where there's damage, but we were actually taken by Illusions to a really cool part where there is new coral growing, and even little nurseries that we got to scuba dive around. They took us down, and it looked like a floral shop underwater, but they had little pots with coral growing out of them, and I thought it was like the coolest thing ever.
So once they get to a certain point, they take these coral and they actually go and plant them. And so there were a lot of ways that the reef was growing with the nurseries. They were growing because sunscreen with chemicals in them are banned in Australia, and they're growing because Australia is so good about limiting their plastic, and especially good about making sure it doesn't get into their oceans. And so we were very impressed by that.
So now it's time to leave Australia, and although it was the hottest time of the year and probably the worst time to go, we had a freaking blast in Australia. We loved the people that we met from all different countries, and even though it rained almost the whole time we were here, like monsoon rain, we loved it. We were soaking wet the entire time, but we'll never forget this time that we had in Australia.
Yeah, we'll definitely want to come back to Australia. All right.
How do you say goodbye in Australian? Asiago.
We'll just say goodbye. Okay.
Bye.
Okay.
Should we try again?
Yeah.
I was ruining it.
Yeah. Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Bye.
Goodbye, Felicia.
Friends and family, we love you.
Yep.
All right, that's good.
We have to have something in there.